1 in 10 million people fall ill after taking contaminated food, while 420,000 die yearly, resulting in the loss of life of over 33 million in the year. Today on Sound Health, we are taking a look at how to save life with food safety. Good evening. Welcome to the program. I am Olasunbo Modupe. The conversation begins after this break. Please stay tuned.
After air and water, food is the most urgent basic human need of every person. Access to enough safe and nutritious food is a right, not a privilege. One of the most important tasks of every government is to ensure that food is safe for consumers. National food control systems protect your health from foodborne diseases and ensure fair practices in the food trade. FAO and WHO have developed the Food Control System Assessment Tool to help governments evaluate the performance of their food control system and plan for the future. The tool is based on Codex Alimentarius guidelines and international health regulations. This is the only tool to assess national food control systems in a comprehensive way by looking at the whole food chain, from production to distribution, retail market, and consumption.
Joining us via Zoom this evening is Ada Onuorah, and she's going to enlighten us on how to save lives with food safety. Good evening, Ada, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. About 33 million lives are lost yearly as a result of food contamination. How is this possible?
An average person in a day eats probably at least once in a day. Food is a very critical part of our everyday living. We eat food to survive. Now, one of the study by WHO shows that food and water actually has the capacity to, when it's contaminated, to cause about 200 types of various diseases and illnesses, from as low as vomiting, diarrhea, which are like minor symptoms, to as well as higher cases of cancer. Now, but in answer to your question, I think one of the things that is a major reason why food poisoning, food-borne illnesses are actually on the increase is because of, I think, a knowledge gap. There is a knowledge gap. People do not know how important it is to actually, be safe about food, practice food safety. It's very easy for people to think that, okay, it's just maybe when there's a case of food poisoning, it's just probably vomit or diarrhea. But some studies are even going to say that there are more severe cases of even cancer as a result of injecting contaminants from food. So it's I think a case of knowledge gap. People do not know the severity of the importance of actually safeguarding what they eat, being conscious of the kind of things they eat in terms of safety. And also, aside from our knowledge gap, which I think is primary, there are also cases where I think, in my own analysis or interactions with people, I also think that it's also a case of, let's say, nonchalance or lackadaisical attitude towards from people as regards, approaches, food safety approaches. Nobody's taking it serious. Because if somebody's taking something serious, they would obviously, take measures, extreme measures to actually, mitigate foodborne illnesses and diseases.
All right, Uju, is there any difference between food poisoning and food contamination? Are they the same?
There's actually a very, they are a bit similar, but then they're actually different. So food poisoning, on one hand, is actually illness or symptoms, sometimes symptoms that occur as a result of taking in a food contaminant. Now, in actual sense, food poisoning is usually regarded as when illness occurs because maybe the person took something, most times microbes, microorganisms, when we talk about salmonella, fungi, but it even goes beyond microbes. If somebody injects something like sniper, that's actually food poisoning. So it's basically taking in, a food contaminant. But food contamination, on the other hand, is actually just when a food contains a foreign body, something is not supposed to contain. Aside from microbes, talk about chemicals, even physical objects. If it contains a glass, if it contains, fingernail, teeth, anything, bone, is actually food contamination. Yeah.
Okay, so before we look at food safety, how does food get contaminated and what exactly is food safety? Let's look at the two hand in hand, side by side.
Okay. All right. So food contamination in itself happens in a very layman term. It happens when obviously food, what we're going to eat, gets in contact with something that is a foreign body. But how does this actually happen? And to answer your question, in science we say that there are four major types of food contamination, or four major ways food can get contaminated. Then we talk about the physical part of it, physical contamination and food contamination. We talk about microbial food contamination. We talk about chemical food contamination, and then the last, which is not very more often, allergenic food contamination. Now, to break it down, looking at the most common, the very most common microbial food contamination is when food is in contact with a microbe or a microorganism. Now, what happens here is that it can happen from point of the kitchen, it can happen from handling, maybe I don't wash my hands properly, I take it in, I touch the food. It can happen from the point of cooking, maybe I'm cooking and then there's a process of something called cross-contamination. When mixing raw foods with cooked food, now the microbes in the raw food get in contact with the cooked food, and then it's a whole lot of problem in itself. Then we talk about physical contamination, where we obviously see things like maybe glass inside food, or something just gets inside the food, or a pin or something. These ones are very more minor cases. Then we also talk about chemical contamination, which is a bit more, which can be severe also after microbial contamination, where you have a chemical enters inside food, maybe bleach, for example, like a particular bleach or something mistakenly, gets inside food, something like that is also chemical. Then allergenic, which is quite very, very less common, is just simply when maybe people are usually allergic to certain things like nuts or soy or eggs. Some people are allergic to eggs. So one way or the other, when maybe this food that they are allergic to comes in contact with what they want to eat. Probably, let me take a very simple, typical scenario. Maybe using the same knife that's probably used to spread peanut butter, which oftentimes people can be allergic to actually cut maybe bread. And then the person who's allergic to peanut butter also takes that bread. There might be residues of that peanut butter, so that can also cause allergenic contamination. So these are like four major ways or pathways through which contamination happens.
All right, talking about food allergy now, you talked about eating raw food, mixing raw food with cooked food. Some people go for sushi. I don't know how they tolerate that. Does that also fall under food contamination?
Sorry, I didn't get a question.
I said, talking about food allergy, you pointed out earlier that some people it's not ideal to mix raw food with cooked food. And some people also take sushi. Sushi is a combination of raw food mixed with cooked food. Does that also fall into this category? Because some people tolerate sushi well, unlike others.
It doesn't fall into food allergy, right? But except, of course, if there are food substances in itself that the person inside the sushi, the person is allergic to.
Okay.
But with foods like sushi, which contains, some kind of thing that are well cooked, and then some that are not even literally raw, there may be cases of contamination if, if during the food handling process. I mean, in case where the person doesn't wash the vegetables well, the vegetables are not going to be cooked. There may be cases of food contamination in itself. It can happen, but of course, it doesn't mean that every sushi is contaminated with, something. It's all about ensuring that food safety, and then that's your sushi is fine.
All right. Does food-drug interaction also fall under this category of food contamination because of food poisoning? Because we hear at times you cannot take grape with some particular medication, you cannot take some particular food with another medication. Does that also fall under food poisoning or food contamination?
No, food-drug interaction or drug-food interaction, as the case may be, is actually a very different phenomenon or medical term. It's just basically where maybe a nutrient in a food kind of hinders how a drug can function or how a drug can actually be maximized in the body. So it's not harmful in itself. It doesn't really have anything to do with food contamination, but then it's just understanding that certain kinds of food shouldn't be eaten with some drugs. Basically, food drug interaction is just basically that when a nutrient in a food can affect the function of a drug, or rather I would say reduces the efficacy of a drug. Process that whereby the drug will not function as it would be when it is in the body. And the typical example is saying that when we say things like when somebody's taking a malaria drug, the person shouldn't take citrus fruits, or taking the person shouldn't take antibiotics, don't take citrus fruits, or things like that, or things also like maybe when taking a warfarin, a drug containing warfarin, which are basically anticoagulants, don't take vitamin C or vitamin K rich foods. So it's not food, it's not poisoning or doing anything of such. It's just that because of that nutrient in that food, it reduces the efficacy of that drug.
Okay, so we now see more people eat out these days. How do you check food safety in all of this? How do you achieve food safety?
The truth is, it might be a bit difficult to, 100%, be sure that the food you're eating is safe. But there are a few things I can actually advise. The first thing I would always say is know where you are buying food or getting your food or eating out. It's very important that, okay, the place has a track record of actually, not meaning, okay, let me put it this way. So let's say you go to a place and you eat food once there, you eat out there with a group of friends or something. You notice that you don't feel good after eating. Obviously, don't try going there again. So it's important to be sure that where you're going has a track record of food that you eat and you feel okay. But aside from these things, to the things you can do also what I call temperature check. If a food is supposed to be served hot, it is very important that that food is served hot. If it's supposed to be served cold, it's very important that it is served cold. Temperature check is very important. Then undercooking, don't eat food that you know is undercooked. I mean, we all know, sometimes we don't know that food is undercooked from, from the look. But tasting, once you taste the food that's undercooked, please, that spoon of food should be the last spoon of food you're taking in, because in the process of the fact that it's, or in the case, rather, that it's undercooked, chances are that it may cause a foodborne illness or food poisoning over time because it wasn't properly cooked. So these are a few things to check even look at the staff presentation. How are they well dressed? How are they dressed? Are they neatly dressed? Because food contamination also starts from handling of food. I mean, from one point to another, your server is carrying your food, then could transmit something. So you look at the people that are serving the food, you look at the customer care, all of these things overall determine what can give you a premise to know, okay, I think I should eat here, or no, I shouldn't eat here. But all in all, advisably, it's best to always eat your cooked food, all in all. But of course, I understand that there are cases whereby we're unavoidable to eat out. So always do some of these checks before eating out.
All right. There is rise in agri-food production, agri-food system. Are there necessary tips to put in place or to follow to ensure food standards and food safety?
Well, there are a lot of bodies, I think I would probably say that actually looking to food quality control, right? There are a lot of bodies that are in charge of these things, from FAO, Food and Agriculture Organizations, what we also call Codex Alimentarius. Also even Standard Organization of Nigeria and other organizations that are involved in food safety check and quality control. So they already have pre-existing, procedures to make sure that at every point in time, an organization is following due process in terms of food safety procedures in cooking food. So what it then means though, or oftentimes the challenge is not in itself that they are not working on something. The challenge most times that food establishments do not go through their process. That is oftentimes the problem now. But if is that are there quality control procedures and steps? Definitely they are. So but food establishment now the onus lies on them to actually go through with these standard organizations to actually make sure that their food, their procedures and processes are standard enough for food safety check.
Be intentional about food safety. Clean, cook, separate, and chew your food. Handle them properly. Ada Onuorah, thank you so much for your time on Sound Health. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, I have been speaking with Ada Onuorah, nutritionist, on how to save lives using through food safety. Sound Health continues with trending health report from around the world. Please stay tuned. That's Sound Health this week. Hope you've learned one or two things on today's episode. Food safety is everyone's responsibility. Access to enough, safe, and nutritious food is a right and not a privilege. For comments and inquiries, please send SMS to 0035826603 or follow us on social media at Health TV Social, #SoundHealth. A sound health is a sound mind. Make healthy living your choice.